Kevin Stefanski isn't just avoiding the quarterback controversy in Cleveland, he's actively shutting it down. Asked repeatedly about Shedeur Sanders, his development, or even a hint of when he might see meaningful snaps, Stefanski responds with calculated vagueness. He's making progress. We're evaluating day by day. Generic, empty statements that say nothing and hide everything. Meanwhile, a former Super Bowl MVP with rapidly declining production remains the Browns starter, and the most dynamic young quarterback prospect in the building sits buried at QB3.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Shedeur Sanders has made it clear, he's ready. He's not whispering it behind the scenes, he's declared it openly. He's prepared to take over, prepared to lead, and prepared to prove himself. And yet, Cleveland won't let him try. That hesitation isn't about performance. It's fear. Stefanski is coaching like a man trying not to lose, rather than a man trying to win. And that mindset, choosing veteran comfort over the risk of change, has left one of the league's most promising quarterbacks sitting idle in a wasted opportunity. This isn't just a personnel issue, it's a culture issue. Cleveland has never figured out how to develop quarterbacks. The moment there's friction, they retreat to the safety of proven veterans, even when those vets are past their prime. Joe Flacco is the latest example. Reliable, yes, but uninspiring, immobile, and clearly no long-term answer. Sanders, on the other hand, is an investment. The longer he stays benched, the more it looks like Cleveland isn't just delaying, they're denying. Adding pressure is the shadow of Deion Sanders. Shedeur's father, never one to stay silent, is reportedly preparing to publicly push for his son to either play or leave. That looming presence turns Stefanski's press conferences into landmine territory. Every non-answer is a headline. Every hesitation feeds the speculation. The Browns, always flirting with dysfunction, are now in the middle of a quarterback standoff that threatens to explode. And outside Cleveland, other teams are watching. The trade rumors aren't subtle. Franchises with struggling QB rooms or aging starters are eyeing Sanders as a future centerpiece. The interest is real, and the league sees potential that the Browns refuse to unleash. In today's NFL, young quarterbacks are gold, but only if they're actually allowed to play. Stefanski's unwillingness to act decisively has created a pressure cooker. Fans are frustrated, players are unsure, and the organization is teetering between stagnation and upheaval. If Sanders gets traded and becomes a star elsewhere, this won't just be a misstep, it'll be a stain on the franchise's already messy quarterback legacy. Right now, the Browns are choosing silence over leadership. And that silence is costing them time, trust, and possibly one of the most talented quarterbacks of the next generation. The Cleveland Browns have a quarterback controversy, again, and this time, it's not just about who should start. It's about who's being silenced. Kevin Stefanski, the man in charge of leading the Browns out of their endless quarterback carousel, just made it loud and clear. Shedeur Sanders is not part of his plan. And he didn't need to say it directly to make it obvious. In press conference after press conference, Stefanski has danced around the issue. Asked about Shedeur's development? He uses words like progress. Asked about playing time? He leans on the process. Pressed for specifics? He gives none. Meanwhile, Joe Flacco, 38 years old, visibly declining and holding on to his starter spot with nothing but seniority and past glory, continues to lead an offense that's stuck in neutral. And through all of this, Shedeur Sanders is sitting on the bench. Not because he's underperforming, he hasn't been given the chance. Not because he's not ready, he's said himself he's ready to lead. He's made it clear. He's not hiding behind PR lines. He's not waiting for a polite tap on the shoulder. Shedeur Sanders has told the Browns and the world that he's prepared to take over. He wants the job. But the Browns don't want to hear it. Instead, Stefanski and the front office have responded with cautious, vague language that says everything without saying anything. And fans? They're starting to notice. They've heard this song before. They've lived through the string of quarterback false starts, wasted draft picks, and desperate veteran signings. Now they're watching a talented, confident young quarterback ride the bench while the team clings to a version of stability that clearly isn't working. And as usual in Cleveland, dysfunction isn't a bug, it's a feature. The quarterback room is a mess. Joe Flacco, while experienced, is no longer the answer. Dillon Gabriel, another young QB, remains inactive. And Shedeur? He's caught in the crossfire, talented, vocal, visible, and increasingly ignored. And then there's Deion. The presence of Deion Sanders looms large over all of this. Not just as Shedeur's father, but as a brand, a legacy, a force. And whether the Browns like it or not, Deion will speak. He's reportedly already plotting how to push for his son's opportunity, and no one should underestimate what that pressure looks like. This isn't just an internal conversation anymore. It's becoming a full-blown media spectacle. Stefanski's refusal to engage isn't calming the waters, it's pouring gas on the fire. Every non-answer is raising more questions. Every vague "he's developing" line is being met with frustration. Because the issue isn't just about development. It's about a team refusing to evolve. And the NFL is watching. Reports are already circulating that teams are interested in Shedeur Sanders as a trade target. Because if Cleveland won't play him, someone else will. And they'll do it without the chaos. Without the power struggle. Without the political games. That's the risk Cleveland is playing with. They're not just benching a rookie. They're benching potential. And every week that goes by, that potential gets noticed by someone else. Because Shedeur isn't just a backup. He's a brand. He's a quarterback with pedigree, confidence, and ambition. And right now, all of that is being wasted in a locker room that doesn't seem to know what to do with it. This isn't new for Cleveland. The Browns have spent years mismanaging the quarterback position. High draft picks have been burned. Veteran stopgaps have come and gone. The one consistent thread? A refusal to commit to developing young talent. And now, with a player who is literally asking to be developed, the team is once again choosing stagnation. And the fans are done. Cleveland fans have been loyal through every miserable season. But what they're seeing now is the same movie, just with different names. Another veteran being prioritized over a younger, more dynamic option. Another coach afraid to rock the boat. Another opportunity slipping through the cracks because the organization is too scared to take a risk. And in this case, the risk isn't even that high. Shedeur Sanders isn't asking for blind faith, he's asking for a shot. One that, based on Cleveland's current quarterback production, is more than justified. Instead, they're sidelining him. Publicly. Kevin Stefanski's decision to shut down the Shedeur conversation isn't just a football move, it's a message. It tells the locker room, the fans, and the rest of the league that the Browns are choosing experience over upside, reputation over momentum, fear over future. And what does that say to a young quarterback trying to prove himself? It says, not here. But that doesn't mean Shedeur's story ends in Cleveland. If anything, it might just be getting started. With other NFL teams eyeing him, trade rumors growing, and Deion Sanders waiting in the wings, this situation could turn quickly. A public push from Deion could bring this issue to the surface in ways Cleveland isn't prepared to handle. Especially with fan frustration mounting and national media beginning to frame the Browns as the latest example of how not to manage young quarterbacks. And when other teams come knocking, they won't be asking about Shedeur's talent. They'll be asking how Cleveland let it get this bad. The Browns have a choice to make. Commit to development. Embrace the future. Or continue clinging to the idea that stability means playing it safe, even when safe means slowly crumbling in front of everyone. And let's be honest, if Cleveland loses Shedeur Sanders, it won't be because he wasn't ready. It'll be because they weren't. Because this isn't just about a quarterback battle. It's about a franchise that refuses to learn from its own history. About a coach who's more worried about managing egos than making bold decisions. About a team that keeps selling fans hope, while doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And that cycle is going to cost them. It may cost them their young quarterback. It may cost them Deion's influence. And if things keep spiraling, it might even cost Kevin Stefanski his job. Because fans aren't stupid. They can see what's happening. And they're tired of being told to wait. Tired of being told there's a plan. Tired of watching other teams take chances while Cleveland holds onto the same outdated playbook. Shedeur Sanders is ready. He said it himself. And if Cleveland won't listen, someone else will. The question now isn't whether Shedeur should start. The question is whether he should stay. And that answer gets more obvious by the week. If you're done watching the Browns waste talent, play it safe, and run in circles, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment. Tell us, should Shedeur ask for a trade? Should Cleveland make the move? Or is this just another case of the Browns being the Browns? Either way, one thing's clear. This saga isn't over. But Cleveland's time might be. Kevin Stefanski may not be saying much, but his silence is deafening. Every time he sidesteps a question about Shedeur Sanders with phrases like, he's progressing, or we like where he's at, what he's really saying is, he's not part of the plan right now. And that right there? That's the core of the problem. It's not that Shedeur's struggling. It's not that he's unprepared. It's not that the offense can't accommodate a younger quarterback. It's that Cleveland has made a decision to ignore upside in favor of predictability. And in the NFL, where fortunes can flip in a week, where entire seasons hang on a single throw, that kind of thinking is a recipe for mediocrity. Let's break it down. Joe Flacco is still the starter. A veteran who's had his moments, yes, but also one who's clearly not part of the Browns' future. He's a placeholder. A stopgap. The guy you use when you're out of ideas, or worse, when you're too afraid to try something different. And Stefanski? He's clinging to that idea like it's the last life vest on a sinking ship. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders is waiting on the sidelines, not because he's incapable but because he represents change. And change in Cleveland is a dirty word. This team has been burned before. Quarterback after quarterback, draft pick after draft pick, coaching change after coaching change. There's trauma here. Organizational scars. But what they've done is build a culture around avoiding mistakes instead of chasing potential. And Shedeur is the walking definition of potential. Young, talented, confident, media savvy, legacy ties, and clearly ready to compete. But that's exactly what makes him threatening in a place like Cleveland. Because once he steps on the field, the excuses go out the window. You can't hide behind development when the guy you're benching is outperforming the starter in practice. You can't say, we need stability, when that stability is losing games. You can't claim we're protecting him when all you're doing is stalling him. And that's what fans are seeing, stall tactics. The same ones they've seen for years. And this time, it's not some unpolished rookie from a no-name school. It's Shedeur Sanders, the most talked about rookie quarterback in the league. The son of one of the most recognizable figures in football. A guy with brand deals, nil legacy, and an entire fan base that didn't come from Cleveland, but might just leave with him. Because here's the reality, Shedeur doesn't need the Browns. If they don't play him, someone else will. If they try to sit on his career, Deion will take the gloves off. And if Stefanski thinks this can stay a private, internal matter, he's in for a rude awakening. The walls are already closing in. NFL insiders are reporting interest from multiple teams. Trade speculation is picking up. And every time Flacco throws a bad interception or the Browns lose another winnable game, the noise gets louder. And when you have Deion Sanders in the background ready to go public, that's not noise. That's a media firestorm waiting to erupt. The Browns know it. Stefanski knows it. And now they're playing a dangerous game, trying to hold back a quarterback with rising stock while clinging to a veteran whose best days are behind him. This is exactly how teams lose control of their locker rooms. Veterans start to question the coaching staff. Younger players feel boxed out. Morale drops. Trust erodes. Because when everyone sees talent being ignored for politics or fear, it breaks the unspoken agreement inside any team that the best players play. And right now, the Browns are breaking that trust. Let's not forget, this team doesn't exactly have goodwill to fall back on. They haven't been a quarterback-friendly franchise for decades. And now, in a rare moment where they have real young talent on the roster, they're squandering it. This isn't about Shedeur being perfect. It's about the fact that he's earned a chance to lead, a chance to grow, a chance to prove he can be the guy. Not later. Not next year. No. Because waiting around in the NFL? That's how teams fall apart. Other franchises don't wait. Look around the league. Quarterbacks are being thrown in early, asked to sink or swim. And guess what? Some swim. Some stumble. But at least they get the chance. Cleveland won't even put Shedeur in the water. They're too worried about Deion's shadow. About media scrutiny. About being forced into a decision. But what they don't realize is, they already are. Every press conference. Every viral headline. Every fan tweet. The pressure is already here. The only thing they're doing now is digging in and making it worse. And Shedeur? Still silent. Still working. Still waiting. Still doing everything they asked of him. Still letting the drama swirl around him without taking the bait. That's not entitlement. That's professionalism. And it's being ignored in the worst way possible. Because this team doesn't just need a quarterback. It needs a spark. And right now they're sitting one on the bench. Meanwhile, trade talks heat up. And you know what's going to happen if Shedeur gets moved? The Browns will get a mid-round pick at best. Another team will get a motivated, media-ready, pro-level quarterback who's been studying in silence. And the headlines will write themselves. Cleveland wastes another one. And no one will be surprised. They'll just add Shedeur's name to the long list of Browns QBs who were mismanaged, misunderstood, or mistreated. A list that's become so long, it's practically a punchline. But this one? This will sting. Because Shedeur wanted to be there. He said it. He leaned into the challenge. He embraced the city. And still, they benched him. For fear. For politics. For comfort. And if that's the legacy Kevin Stefanski wants to leave behind, he's almost there. Because while Joe Flacco might be the present, he is absolutely not the future. And if the Browns are willing to fumble Shedeur Sanders just to protect the past, they don't deserve what's coming. But another team will. And Shedeur? He's going to be just fine. Whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere else, he will get on the field. And when he does, every coach, fan, and analyst who sat through these weeks of vague answers and passive aggression will remember how this moment felt. Like watching the Browns once again snatch defeat from the jaws of promise. The Browns say they're building for the future. But how can you build for the future when you're too afraid to play it? That's what this is really about. Not game plans. Not press conference platitudes. Not progress. This is about an organization that's been stuck in survival mode for so long, it no longer recognizes opportunity when it's staring it in the face. And Shedeur Sanders is the opportunity. Everything about his situation checks the boxes of what teams claim they're looking for. Poised young quarterback, mature beyond his years, student of the game, confident but coachable, marketable, media savvy, and clearly ready to step into a leadership role. And not in some vague one-day kind of way, now. He's literally saying it. Out loud. But instead of meeting that energy with action, Kevin Stefanski is doing what Cleveland coaches have done for years. Play it safe, delay the decision, and let the moment pass. Except this moment? It can't be delayed. The pressure is boiling. And it's coming from all sides. There's pressure from the fans who've watched their teams cycle through quarterbacks like it's a bad dating show, only to now have one worth investing in and still can't get a commitment. There's pressure from the locker room, where players can see who's ready, who's not, and who's being held back for reasons that have nothing to do with performance. And then there's pressure from Deion Sanders, whose mere presence in this conversation changes everything. Deion isn't the type to wait quietly in the wings. If he believes his son is being overlooked, mistreated, or boxed out, he will go public. He's done it before. And not just as a protective father, but as a media force. As a businessman. As someone who understands the power of narrative, and knows exactly how to shift it when needed. And the Browns? They're not ready for that smoke. Because right now, the only thing holding this situation back from becoming a full-on media wildfire is Shedeur's restraint. Not the Browns' leadership. Not Stefanski's strategy. Shedeur himself is the one keeping it together. By staying quiet. By showing up. By playing his part. But that silence has a limit. Every week he sits behind Flacco, the tension builds. And every time the Browns lose a winnable game, or Flacco looks like he's running in quicksand, the narrative sharpens. Fans are no longer just frustrated. They're done. Because this isn't just another chapter in Cleveland's quarterback woes. This is negligence in real time. And let's talk about what happens if Shedeur does get traded. Because that option is no longer some fantasy headline. It's real. Teams are interested. Conversations are happening. And unlike Cleveland, those teams see the value. They're not worried about egos. They're not scared of Deion. They're looking at Shedeur for what he is. An NFL-ready quarterback who's been forced to sit because the organization around him lacks the courage to pull the trigger. If he ends up on another roster, starts, and performs, it's over for Cleveland. Not just from a PR perspective. Not just from a locker room morale perspective. It's over in terms of trust. Fan trust. League trust. Player trust. Because who wants to play for a franchise that's afraid of its own future? What message does it send when the guy you drafted, the guy who wants to play, the guy who has the skills to contribute right now, gets benched behind someone who already had his moment in the NFL 10 years ago? What does it say when the Browns prioritize not rocking the boat over steering the ship? It says what most people already suspect, that this organization still doesn't know how to lead from the front. And it's not just about Shedeur. This situation shines a light on a bigger problem in the NFL. Teams that talk about developing talent but can't break up with the illusion of veteran security. This obsession with stability becomes a crutch, and it's killing momentum across the league. Teams draft quarterbacks high, then get scared to play them. Or they sign flashy rookies, only to bury them behind aging QBs whose best plays are now just memories. It's a self-sabotaging cycle. And Cleveland? Their textbook. They had a chance to flip the narrative. They had a chance to say, we're doing things differently now. They had a chance to finally become the team that takes bold risks and gets rewarded. And instead they blinked. Now they're watching a young quarterback with all the right tools rot on the bench while the rest of the league circles like vultures, waiting for the inevitable. And that's not just a bad look, it's an indictment. Shedeur Sanders wasn't drafted to be a bench warmer. He wasn't signed as a legacy play. He's not here to be babysat through a 3-year plan. He's ready. He said it himself. He's watching the game unfold from the sideline knowing full well he could be contributing, and the team knows it too. So what are they waiting for? For Flacco to win them a playoff game? For a magical stretch run that resets the timeline? For Shedeur to sit quietly until it's too late and his trade value dips? Because let's be real, the only thing more embarrassing than benching a ready QB is losing him for nothing. If the Browns wait too long and the relationship sours, they don't just lose Shedeur, they lose what he represents. Potential. Swagger. The future. They go back to square one. Again. Because the next Shedeur? He's not going to look at Cleveland as a place to build a legacy. He's going to remember how this one ended. And so will the fans. The Browns have been here before. Mismanaging young talent. Backing the wrong quarterback. Protecting the wrong system. And every time they sell it as part of the process. But this time? There's no process. There's only proof. The proof is in Shedeur's readiness. His professionalism. His presence. His quiet confidence in the face of being shut out of the opportunity he's earned. So here's the bottom line. If Kevin Stefanski wants to save face, if the Browns want to salvage what's left of this quarterback situation, they need to make a decision. Fast. Either play Shedeur Sanders or trade him. Those are the only two options. The in-between? The limbo? That's where careers go to die. That's where franchises lose their identity. And that's where Cleveland is headed, unless someone finally steps up and breaks the cycle. Because Shedeur isn't going to wait forever. And the league? Is already watching. Waiting. Preparing offers. One way or another, Shedeur Sanders will get his shot. The only question is whether Cleveland will be smart enough, or brave enough, to give it to him. If you're tired of seeing teams waste talent, tired of the same old excuses, and tired of watching the Browns sit on a gift they refuse to open, say something. Drop a comment. Share the truth. Subscribe for coverage that doesn't dodge the drama, doesn't protect the power players, and always holds the system accountable. Because whether Shedeur plays in Cleveland or somewhere else, he's coming. And when he does, the team that doubted him, they're going to be the ones watching from the sidelines.